Saturday, October 18, 1913.
So he led us within, and we found that the interior of the house was lofty and very magnificent. The entrance hall, in which we stood, was circular in shape, and open right up to the great dome above, which did not stand over the center of the building, but receded a little from the portico over this entrance. The rotunda was richly embellished with stones of many colors, and hangings of silk-like texture, mostly of deep crimson. Doorways led off down long passages, in front, and on either side of us. Doves flitted about the dome itself, and evidently had means of ingress and egress. The material of which the arching roof of this dome was built was a kind of semi-opaque stone, and permitted the light to filter through in a softened glow. When we had looked about us for a time, we found that we were alone, for Castrol had left us. By and by, from down a passage on our right, we heard laughter and happy voices, and there presently emerged a party of women, with a few children among them. They numbered about 20 in all, and came to us, and took our hands in welcome, and kissed us on the cheek, and smiled on us, so that we were happier, if possible, than before. Then they drew away, and stood at a little distance, except one who had remained in the rear. She came forward and led us to a recess in the wall, where she bade us be seated. Then, standing before us, she addressed each of us by name, in greeting, and said, "You will wonder why you have come here, and what this city and place is, to which you have been sent. This house, in which you now are, is the palace of Castrol, as, no doubt, you already know. He is ruler of this wide district, where many occupations are followed, and many studies are pursued. I hear you have already been to the colony of music, and farther on to other settlements, where different branches of science are carried on. Now, we are in touch with all of these, and are constantly receiving their reports as to progress in this or that branch. These are considered and dealt with by Castrol and his officers, from the harmony point of view, as I will call it. Coordination, however, would express what I mean. For instance, a report will arrive from the College of Music, and another from that of Light, and another from the settlement where the creative faculty is studied, and from other branches of service. These are all very carefully examined and analyzed and tabulated, and, where necessity requires, the results are tested here, in one or other of the laboratories attached to this city. You will have seen some of these as you approached. They are scattered over the country to a great distance. They are not quite so complete in detail as those you have visited elsewhere, but, when any new apparatus is required, a mission is dispatched to inquire as to the construction, and these return and erect it, in the spot most fitting in relation to the other establishments in this district, or perhaps it is added to the other apparatus already in existence, in one or other of the buildings. You will understand, therefore, that an overlord such as he, who controls so varied a combination of knowledge, must be well advanced in wisdom, and also is kept very busy at his work. It is this work you have been sent to see, and, while you remain with us, you will have ample opportunity of visiting some of the outlying stations. You will not, of course, understand all, or perhaps very much, of the scientific side of the work, but enough will be shown you to help you in your future work. Now come, and I will show you over this house, if you would care to see it." We replied that we would, and thanked her for her kindness. So we went all over the principal parts of that magnificent dwelling. That is the only word I can find for it. Everywhere was color blended with color, bold but harmonious, and in such a way that, instead of being glaring, it had sometimes an exhilarating, and sometimes a soothing and restful effect. Jewels and precious metals and beautiful ornaments, vases and pedestals and pillars, some standing alone as an ornament, each by itself, some in groups, hangings of glittering material which, as we passed through some doorway, swung into place again with a musical murmur, fountains with fish, courtyards open to the sky, in which grass and most beautiful trees and flowering shrubs grew, of such colors as are not known on earth. Then we ascended to the roof, and here again was a roof garden, but one of large extent, with grass and arbors, and shrubs and fountains once again. It was mostly from this garden that messages and messengers were sighted, and also, there were appliances, by which correspondence could be carried on with distant regions, by a kind of what you would perhaps call wireless telegraphy, but it was really different from that, inasmuch as the messages arrived in visible form mostly, and not in words. In this mansion we stayed for a considerable period, and visited both the city and also the district around, a district which in earth measure would be reckoned in thousands of miles across, but all in constant touch with the city and its communicating stations, and with this central palace itself. Time would fail to tell you all. So I will just give you a few details, and leave you to imagine the rest, which, however, I know you will fail to do. The first thing which puzzled me was the presence of children, for I had thought that all children were reared in special homes by themselves. The lady who had received us was the mother of the place, and those who had attended her were some of her helpers. I asked one of these about these children who looked so happy and beautiful, and so perfectly at ease in this grand place. She explained that these were stillborn children, who had never breathed the atmosphere of earth. For this reason they were of different character from others who had been born alive, even from those who had only lived a few minutes. They also required different treatment, and were able much sooner to imbibe the knowledge of these spheres. So they were sent to some such home as this, and were trained until they had progressed in mind and stature, to such a degree, that they were able to begin their new course of knowledge. Then, strong in heavenly purity and wisdom, they were taken in hand by those teachers who were in touch with the earth itself, and were taught what they had not been able to learn before. This was interesting to me, and presently, I began to see that one reason I had been sent here was to learn this very thing, in order that there might be awakened in me, by that knowledge, the desire to know my own who had so passed into this land, and of whom I had not hoped to be called mother. Oh, the great and sweetest yearning which came to me when I realized this. I will not dwell upon it, but confess that, for a time tears of unutterable joy dimmed my eyes, at this one more blessing added to my already abundant store. I sat down on the grass beneath a tree, and hid my face in my hands, and bowed my head upon my knees, and there I remained helpless, from the too exquisite rapture, which filled and vibrated through my being till I shook all over. My kind friend did not speak to me, but sat down by my side, and put her arms around my shoulders, and let me sob out my joy. Then, when I had somewhat recovered, she said very gently, "Dear, I also am a mother, the mother of one such as you will find here all your own. So I know what is in your heart at this moment, for I have experienced your present joy also." Then I raised my eyes to her face, and she saw the question I could not ask her, and, taking my hand, she raised me, and, with her arm round my shoulder still, she led me towards a grove, where we heard children playing, their happy shouts and laughter coming through the trees, for I was very faint from all that great joy that filled me, and how should I sustain the greater joy to come? Dear, that was not very long ago, and it is still so fresh to me, that I find it hard to write for you clearly as I could wish. But you must forgive me if I seem to be too profuse, or too disjointed in my words. I had not known this truth, and when it was revealed to me so suddenly, and all the, to me, tremendous significance of it, well, I must leave you to try to understand. Suffice to say, I found in that glade what I did not know I possessed, and such a gift as this is more readily bestowed in this land than one is able with due self-control to receive. I must add, before I cease, what I ought to have said before, but was carried on in spite of myself by the recollection of that sweet hour. It is this: when young children come over here, they are first schooled in this life and then have to learn what experience they have lacked on earth. The more training they have acquired in the earth life, the sooner they are sent to complete it. Those who are stillborn have had no earth training at all. Nevertheless, they are children of the earth and, as such, they must return and acquire it. Not until it is safe for them to do so, however, and then under proper guardianship until they are competent to go alone. Their return to the neighborhood of the earth sphere is consequently longer delayed, and one who has lived a long and busy life on earth has less to learn of earth life when he comes over here, and so can pass on to other and higher studies. Of course, these are only the broad governing principles, and, in application to individuals, account has to be taken of personal characteristics, and the rule modified and adapted as the particular case requires or merits. But all is well for all who live and love, and those who love best live the loveliest life. That sounds rather too alliterative, but let it stand, for it is true. God bless you, dear. Good night.